Hello everyone and welcome back to the virtual revision class of Network and Cybersecurity 15 EC 835. Today again we will be continuing our revision on module 1, which is nothing but transport level security or TLS. Coming to the contents, so previously if you remember, we had started the discussion on web security considerations and secure sockets layer. We have already completed web security considerations and secure sockets layer till alert codes. However, a small portion of SSL, which is nothing but handshake protocol, is still remaining. So first we will complete that and then we shall move ahead and continue our discussion on HTTPS and SSH or Secure Shell. So until now, we have discussed about SSL record protocol, change cipherspec protocol, and alert protocol. Now, let us have a look at handshake protocol. So this handshake protocol is the most important protocol which is basically used to authenticate the client and the server and also decide authentication and encryption algorithms along with the keys. So what is the use of handshake protocol? It authenticates the client and server and decides the algorithms used for authentication and encryption along with of course the keys to be shared. Then, moving on to the next point, the handshake protocol also exchanges a number of messages between a client and the server, and each message consists of the following three fields, namely type, length, and content, where type is of 1 byte and indicates the messages. Now these messages are present in the next slide. So as and when we go to the next slide, I shall discuss about it. Moving on to the next field is nothing but the length field, which is of 3 bytes and represents the length of the message in bytes. Lastly, the last field is nothing but the content field, which represents or contains the parameters associated with the message, which is as shown in the table in the next slide. So as I mentioned in the previous slide, these are the message types and parameters of field 1 and 3 of the handshake protocol message respectively. So next we have the handshake protocol action, and figure 17.6 shows the initial exchange needed to establish a connection between a client and a server. So the figure that you see here consists of steps which are required to establish connection and not data transmission. Please remember this. So once the connection is established, then you can start transmitting the messages. As we can see here in this figure, the exchange can be viewed as having 4 phases, namely the first phase, establish security capabilities. Then we have the second phase, which is server authentication and key exchange. Next, the third phase is client authentication and key exchange. And finally, we have the fourth phase, which is nothing but the finish phase. Now, let us look into the working of each phase in detail. Coming to phase 1, now if you observe this figure carefully, the first thing that is sent is, or in the first phase, the client sends a client hello message to the server. And this hello message consists of certain parameters like the protocol version, session ID, cipher suit, compression method, and initial random numbers. Now, after sending the client hello message, the client waits for the server hello message. Now, which in turn again contains the same parameters as the client hello message. Coming to phase 2, here the server begins its phase by sending its certificate if it needs to be authenticated. Next, a server key exchange message may be sent if it is required. Next, a non-anonymous server can then request a certificate from the client. This is completely optional. You need to remember this. And then there is the final message in phase 2, The one that is always required is the server done message. Now this message is sent by the server to indicate the end of the server hello and associated messages. Again, after sending this message, the server will wait for a client response, and this message has no parameters at all. So this is a completely solely single message. Next we have the phase 3. So upon receipt of the server done message, the client should verify that the server provided a valid certificate and check that the server hello parameters are acceptable. Only after all these checks are done, and if everything is found to be satisfactory, then the client sends one or more messages back to the server. Here again, if the server has requested a certificate, then the client begins this phase by sending a certificate message. However, if no suitable certificate is available, then the client sends a no certificate alert instead. Next is the client key exchange message, which must be sent in this phase. And then finally, in this phase, the client may send or may not send a certificate verify message in order to provide a verification of a client certificate. Finally, coming to phase 4. Now this phase completes the setting up of a secure connection. So here the client sends a change cipher spec message and copies the pending cipher spec into the current cipher spec. After this, the client then immediately sends the finished message under the new algorithms, keys, and secrets. Lastly, in response to these two messages, the server sends its own change cipher spec message, transfers the pending to the current cipher spec, and sends its finished message. Now, at this point, the handshake is complete and the client and server may then begin to exchange application layer data or messages. So this was about handshake protocol action, which consisted of 4 phases in brief. Moving on to the next topic. So after SSL, we have TLS or Transport Layer Security, which is nothing but the successor of SSL. So this TLS is defined as a proposed internet standard in RFC 5246, which is very similar to SSL v3, where SSL v3 is nothing but Secure Socket Layer version 3. However, both differ in version number. Here, by both I mean TLS and SSL. So, both this TLS and SSL differ in version number, message authentication code, pseudo-random function, alert keys, cipher suites, client certificate types, certificate verify and finished messages, cryptographic computations, and finally padding. Now, let us look into the key differences between SSL and TLS. Since we already know what is SSL and we know what is TLS. So the first difference is that the TLS protocol does not support Forteza or DMS cipher suites, while SSL supports Forteza. Also, the TLS standardization process makes it much easier to define new cipher suites. Moving on to the next difference. In SSL, in order to create a master secret, the message digest of the pre-master secret is used. In contrast, TLS uses a pseudo-random function to generate a master secret. The third difference, the SSL record protocol adds MAC, which is nothing but message authentication code, after compressing each block and encrypts it. On the contrary, the TLS record protocol uses HMAC, which is nothing but hash-based message authentication code. The next difference, the no certificate alert message is included in SSL. On the other hand, TLS removes alert description, that is no certificate, and adds a dozen other values. Next one, the SSL message authentication unites key information and application data in an ad hoc manner created just for the SSL protocol, whereas the TLS protocol just relies on a standard message authentication code which is known as HMAC. Next, in the TLS certificate verify the message, the MD5 and SHA-1 hashes are computed only over handshake messages. However, on the contrary, in SSL, the hash calculation also includes the master secret and pad. Lastly, as with the finished message in TLS, here it is created by applying the PRF to the master key and handshake messages, whereas in SSL, it's constructed by applying message digest to the master key and handshake messages. So these are few of the differences between SSL and TLS. So next we have HTTPS, which is nothing but HTTP over SSL. So this HTTPS refers to the combination of HTTP and SSL to implement secure communication between a web browser and a web server. And this HTTPS capability is built into all modern web browsers, and so the user of a web browser will see URL addresses that begin with https:// rather than HTTP, which we used to see previously. Next, there is no fundamental change in using HTTP over either SSL or TLS, and both implementations are referred to as HTTPS only, which means that whether you use HTTP over SSL or HTTP over TLS, it is gonna be called or regarded to as HTTPS only. So then, when HTTPS is used, the following elements of the communication are encrypted, namely the URL of the requested document, contents of the document, contents of browser forms, cookies sent from browser to server and from server to browser, and contents of HTTP header. So these are the components which are going to be encrypted once you use HTTPS on any site. Then next we have connection initiation and connection closure in HTTPS. First, let us have a look at connection initiation or the steps involved in initiation of the connection in HTTPS. So for HTTPS, the agent acting as the HTTP client also acts as the TLS client. Now the client initiates a connection to the server on the appropriate port and then sends the TLS client hello to begin the TLS handshake. When the TLS handshake has finished, the client then initiates the first HTTP request. After that, all HTTP data is to be sent as TLS application data. Then there are around 3 levels of awareness of a connection in HTTPS. At the HTTP level, an HTTP client requests a connection to an HTTP server by sending a connection request to the next lowest layer. Typically, the next lowest layer is TCP, but it also may be TLS or SSL. Then at the level of TLS, a session is established between a TLS client and a TLS server. Now this session can support one or more connections at any time. As we have seen, a TLS request to establish a connection begins with the establishment of a TCP connection between the TCP entity on the client side and the TCP entity on the server side. So after connection initiation, we have connection closure. Here, the HTTP client or server can indicate the closing of a connection by including the line connection:close in an HTTP record. Once this line is included by the client or the server, the connection will be closed. Next, the closure of an HTTPS connection requires that the TLS close the connection with the peer TLS entity on the remote side, which will involve closing the underlying TCP connection. Also, the TLS implementations must initiate an exchange of closure alerts before closing a connection. However, a TLS implementation may, after sending a closure alert, close the connection without waiting for the peer to send its closure alert, generating an incomplete close. Next we have Secure Shell or SSH. So SSH is a protocol for secure network communications which is basically designed to be relatively simple and inexpensive to implement. Then the initial version, that is SSH1, was focused on providing a secure remote logon facility to replace Telnet and other remote logon schemes that provided no security. So this SSH1 was basically implemented to provide a logon facility and replace Telnet and other remote logon schemes which had provided no security at that particular time. SSH also provides more general client-server capability, and this can be used for such network functions as file transfer and email. Next, a new version, that is SSH2, fixes a number of security flaws in the original scheme. The original scheme being SSH1. So whatever flaws were present in SSH1, this SSH2 claims to have fixed a number of them. Next, SSH client and server applications are widely available for most operating systems, and it has become the method of choice for remote login and extunneling, and is rapidly becoming one of the most pervasive applications for encryption technology outside of embedded systems. So this was a brief introduction about SSH or Secure Shell Protocol. Lastly, we have the SSH protocol stack. So this SSH is organized as three protocols that typically run on top of TCP. So you can see here we have a stack. At the end or at the lowest layer we have IP. Over that we have TCP, and then over TCP we have a set of three protocols, namely SSH Transport Layer Protocol, SSH User Authentication Protocol, and SSH Connection Protocol. The first protocol that we are going to speak about is Transport Layer Protocol. Now this Transport Layer Protocol provides server authentication, data confidentiality, and data integrity with forward secrecy. That is, if a key is compromised during one session, the knowledge does not affect the security of earlier sessions. So this is what is provided by Transport Layer Protocol. Now the transport layer may optionally provide even compression. So these are the 2 points that you need to remember about transport layer protocol. Next we have user authentication protocol. So what this user authentication protocol does is, as the name itself suggests, it authenticates the user to the server. And finally, we have the connection protocol, which is the last protocol. And this protocol multiplexes multiple logical communication channels over a single underlying SSH connection. So this connection protocol multiplexes the multiple communication channels over a single channel. So it is like many to one. So this was about SSH protocol stack. So here we come to the end of module 1. We shall begin module 2 in the next class. Thank you.